Adolf Hitler. Nothing freaks people out more than a dictator getting full control, and that's exactly what happened with Hitler. Dude basically set the entire world on fire. His obsession with Aryan supremacy, hatred for Jews, and thirst for power led to the Holocaust and over 50 million deaths during World War II. Yeah, that's a crazy body count to leave behind. Even now, decades later, his name still screams evil. His messed up ideas and all-out war became the biggest warning sign ever about what happens when toxic beliefs go unchecked. Joseph Stalin. You'd think leaders are supposed to look out for their people, right? Yeah, but Stalin isn't that guy. As, while Hitler went after others, Stalin turned the horror inward. He ruled the Soviet Union from the 1920s to 1953 and just went full villain mode. We're talking purges, fake trials, mass executions, the whole package. And it didn't stop there. He basically caused the Holodomor, a man-made famine in Ukraine that wiped out millions. Add that to the Great Terror, where even more were imprisoned or executed, and you've got a reign that might even outdo Hitler in pure body count and mental scarring. Timur Tamerlane. Before either of those two even existed, there was Timur, also known as Tamerlane, who was just built different. This dude tore through Central Asia, India, and the Middle East back in the 1300s like it was nothing. He wiped out entire cities, piled up skulls, literally, and left a trail of chaos everywhere he went. They say his rampage caused up to 20 million deaths, and this was before modern weapons or tech. His empire didn't last long after he died, but man, his reputation for being absolutely ruthless is still on another level. Nero. Alright, Nero doesn't have the crazy high kill count like the others, but this guy was pure chaos. He ruled Rome from 54 to 68 AD and was straight up unhinged. He killed his own mother, poisoned rivals, and probably started the Great Fire of Rome, which he obviously blamed on the Christians. That sparked Rome's first big wave of persecution. Nero was basically the OG, I've got power and I'm gonna ruin everything with it kind of guy. He may not have wiped out millions, but he showed just how terrifying it is when someone completely unstable has total control. Genghis Khan, the conqueror of civilizations. A long time ago, on the wide grasslands of Mongolia, a boy was born who would change history. His name was Genghis Khan, a young boy who started with nothing, but he united many fighting tribes and became their leader. Then he and his Mongol army began to conquer lands far and wide. They marched across Asia and even into parts of Europe. Many cities were destroyed, and millions of people were killed. Some say his wars caused around 40 million deaths. His army used fear as a weapon, making enemies surrender before the fight even started. But Genghis Khan wasn't only a warrior. He also brought peace between tribes, made trade safer along the Silk Road, and allowed people to follow their own religions. He built the biggest connected empire the world has ever seen. Today, people still talk about him. Some see him as a great leader, others remember the fear he brought. Genghis Khan's story is one of power, war, and a legacy that changed the world. Mao Zedong, the revolutionary turned reaper. Mao Zedong is known by many as the man who helped create modern China. He led a revolution and became the leader of the country. For some, he is still seen as a hero. But behind that image is a dark and painful story. In 1958, Mao started a plan called the Great Leap Forward. He wanted to quickly grow China's farming and factories, but the plan failed terribly. It led to a huge famine, and more than 30 million people died from hunger. Later, in 1966, Mao began the Cultural Revolution. He told young people, called the Red Guards, to rise up against teachers, leaders, and anyone seen as old or wrong. Books were burned, schools closed, and families were broken apart. Many people were hurt or killed. In the end, Mao's rule may have caused the deaths of 45 to 70 million people, more than almost any other leader in history. Mao Zedong changed China forever, but his legacy is filled with both revolution and great sorrow. Adolf Eichmann, the administrator of death. Adolf Eichmann wasn't a loud or famous Nazi leader. He didn't lead armies or pull triggers. Instead, he worked behind a desk. But the job he did helped make one of history's worst crimes possible. Eichmann was in charge of transporting millions of Jews to Nazi death camps during the Holocaust. He organized trains, made schedules, and made sure everything ran smoothly. Because of his careful planning, people were taken from their homes and sent to places where they would be killed. After World War II, Eichmann escaped to Argentina and lived there in hiding. But in 1960, Israeli agents found him, captured him, and brought him to Jerusalem for trial. The trial shocked the world. People saw how an ordinary man, just following orders, could help commit such great evil. Eichmann's story reminds us that even people who don't fight can still cause great harm by doing nothing to stop it. Hideki Tojo, Japan's face of militarism. During World War II, Hideki Tojo was the Prime Minister of Japan. He was one of the main leaders who pushed Japan into a deadly and destructive war. Tojo gave the order to attack Pearl Harbor in 1941, which started Japan's war with the United States. He also led Japan's army during harsh invasions in China and Southeast Asia. Under his leadership, Japanese soldiers committed terrible crimes, like the rape of Nanking, where thousands of people were killed, and Unit 731, where cruel medical tests were done on living people. After the war, Tojo was captured, put on trial, and later executed for his war crimes. Even though many years have passed, the pain and damage caused by Tojo's actions are still remembered today. Leopold II. So, Europe had kings showing off their power with palaces and parties. Then there was Leopold II of Belgium, who took a much darker route. Instead of just being content ruling Belgium, he looked at Africa, specifically the Congo, and said, "Yeah, I'll take that for myself." Literally. The Congo Free State from 1885 to 1908 was his personal project, not Belgium's colony. Think of it as a whole country turned into a private profit machine. And it was hell. People were forced to collect rubber under brutal conditions. If they didn't meet quotas, their hands were cut off. As in, that was an actual system of accounting. No rubber? Let me see those hands. We're talking widespread torture, executions, and just complete disregard for human life. Estimates suggest up to 15 million people died due to the violence, famine, and disease his regime caused. That's not a typo, 15 million. And guess what? Despite all this, Leopold died wealthy and unpunished. He was praised in Belgium as a builder and king. Meanwhile, the Congo was left bleeding. Forgotten monster? Absolutely. But make no mistake, he was one of the worst. Joseph Kony. You've probably heard of Kony 2012, that viral campaign that lit up the internet like wildfire. But Joseph Kony didn't just pop up in 2012. The guy's been terrorizing Central Africa since 1987 with his militia, the Lord's Resistance Army, which sounds like some religious group, but it's basically a nightmare dressed in camo. Kony claimed he was doing God's work, but his tactics were anything but holy. We're talking kidnapping children, brainwashing them, turning boys into soldiers and girls into sex slaves. He cut off lips and ears, massacred villages, and displaced millions. This man turned fear into a military strategy. And the worst part? He's still out there. Despite the international attention, celebrities calling him out, and even military efforts to capture him, Kony has evaded justice like a ghost, one of the most wanted men in the world, and still very much a symbol of how evil sometimes just gets away with it. Reinhard Heydrich. If Hitler was the face of the Nazi regime, Reinhard Heydrich was the brain behind some of its most chilling operations. This guy didn't shout speeches or lead armies, he organized. He planned, and what he planned was mass murder with the efficiency of a German train schedule. Nicknamed the Butcher of Prague, Heydrich chaired the Wannsee Conference, which was basically a business meeting where they plotted out the final solution, aka the Holocaust. He was the one who made genocide a logistical operation. Deportations, ghettos, extermination camps, it was his system, and he didn't flinch. In 1942, Czech resistance fighters finally took him out with a grenade ambush in Prague. Victory, right? Well, the Nazis responded by flattening an entire village, Lidice, killing hundreds in revenge. That's the kind of horror Heydrich left behind. He wasn't the loudest Nazi, but he was one of the deadliest. Ivan. Okay, Russia's had a few intense leaders, but Ivan IV, aka Ivan the Terrible, really set the bar early. Crowned in 1547 as Russia's first ever czar, he looked at the job and said, "Cool title, now time to go full psycho." This dude had serious trust issues. He formed the Oprichnina, which was like a medieval KGB death squad hybrid that roamed around in black robes murdering anyone who might have looked at Ivan the wrong way. Cities were destroyed, thousands were executed. He even killed his own son in a fit of rage. Yeah, that actually happened. His reign was like a roller coaster of reforms and rampages. One moment he's improving Russia's legal system, the next he's burning towns to the ground. By the time he was done, Russia was left so broken, it spiraled into the time of troubles Ivan didn't just rule, he terrorized. And his legacy still echoes in Russian history like a really bad hangover. Pol Pot, the architect of agrarian genocide. Pol Pot's vision for a classless agrarian society drove Cambodia into one of the darkest chapters of the 20th century. Between 1975 and 1979, his Khmer Rouge regime emptied cities, banned religion, and abolished money, forcing millions into brutal labor camps. Intellectuals were hunted. Even wearing glasses could be a death sentence. Starvation, overwork, and mass executions killed nearly 2 million, about a quarter of Cambodia's population. Pol Pot's reign of terror remains one of the most chilling examples of a dangerous man who can go any length to enforce his ideologies. Kim Jong-il. North Korea under Kim Jong-il became a dystopia sealed off from the world. From 1994 until his death in 2011, Kim maintained a cult of personality while mismanaging the economy into collapse. His military-first policy diverted resources away from the starving population. The resulting famine claimed over 2 million lives. Political prisoners, including children, were sent to gulags, tortured, or executed. Kim's nuclear ambitions made him a global threat, but it was his treatment of his own people that defined his tyranny. Yakubu Gowon. While not as globally infamous, Nigerian military leader Yakubu Gowon oversaw one of the deadliest civil wars in African history. During the Nigerian Civil War, 1967-1970, Gowon's government blockaded the secessionist state of Biafra. The result, a famine that killed up to 3 million people, many of them children. Television broadcasts of starving Biafran children shocked the world and led to one of the first massive humanitarian relief efforts. Though his intentions may not have been genocidal, the human cost of his decisions was devastating. Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein ruled Iraq with an iron fist from 1979 to 2003. His reign was marked by widespread torture, forced disappearances, and genocidal campaigns, especially against the Kurds. The Halabja chemical attack in 1988 killed thousands in minutes. He led Iraq into 2 ruinous wars, one with Iran and the other with Kuwait, which triggered the Gulf War. Saddam's intelligence apparatus terrorized the populace, and mass graves still testify to the brutality of his regime. Ultimately captured and executed, his legacy remains one of fear and repression.